Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Are you ready today to bust some myths about wine? Now, if you love Spanish food and wine, or you just want to sound like an absolute expert at the Christmas table, then this episode is right up your street. Today, we're taking a detour away from property and we're going to be talking all things Spanish wine. I'm joined by Linda from Winederlust Málaga, a wine and food expert helping visitors find the most excellent wines in the region in southern Spain. I'm so thrilled you're here with me this morning.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's brilliant. This is going to be exciting.
We've
really even got some wine.
Of course, we can't do this without wine.
And it's never too early, right?
I mean, I think, should we just pour it?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about what you've brought.
Cool. Okay, well, I thought I'd do something from Andalusia.
Yeah.
This is from Cadiz, the Cadiz region. And it's a special bottle of wine because it's from a special kind of soil. I'm not going to geek out too much about it, but it's a grape that's from that region called Tintilla de Rota. And it's called Furlong because it was originally owned, the piece of land was owned by a British merchant called Peter Furlong.
Oh, wow.
So we've got a little British connection there as well.
That's amazing. Yeah. So while you pour the wine, tell everybody watching a little bit about you.
Cool. Okay, I'm from Manchester, the UK. I've worked in bars and restaurants and been in hospitality for 20 years, a little bit more. And during that time, kind of fell in love with wine, ended up working in some really nice restaurants and therefore having really nice wine lists.
Yes.
Kind of got the bug for learning about it, started doing my studies, and I did two of my qualifications in the UK.
Okay.
When I moved to Spain, I then fell in love with sherry wines.
Yes, sherry wine.
I'm the biggest sherry ambassador. And then I did my sherry wine studies while I was here in Malaga.
Okay. Amazing, amazing. So this lovely, what colour will I call this?
It's a rosé, yeah.
This lovely rosé in front of us. Can I dare to have a taste?
Please, yeah.
I feel a bit guilty doing this.
It's breakfast wine, isn't it?
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, breakfast wine. So now I feel better. So breakfast wine, is that actually really a thing? I thought that was just
in my life.
I'm spilling it everywhere.
She's already had a glass. So for me,
Smells
breakfast
amazing.
wine is like if you're, sometimes at the airport you have a little cheeky glass of cava. So cava is a good breakfast wine. Now, I should preface this with, and I'm not talking about 8 a.m. This is not my life. But if you are going to have a pre-midday glass of wine, I think a nice light rosé or a glass of cava are the way forward.
Okay, so if you are going to have a breakfast wine, we're not recommending that you do this at 8 a.m. before the school run. Look for, as Linda correctly points out, a nice rosé.
Pale rosé.
Yeah.
I mean, cava. Cava is a really good start to my day. Pre-coffee. No. But honestly, obviously, cava is also a really good hangover cure while we're there. It will sort your hangover right out.
So there you have it. We've not even got into the meaty stuff of the episode and we're already learning loads of tips about breakfast wines and cava as a hangover cure. But listen, in all seriousness, we recently did one of your amazing wine trail tours in Malaga City and it was absolutely epic. I learned loads. Yeah. You really are the expert, you deserve that title.
Thank you.
You introduced me to some new wines and drinks that I had never experienced and you introduced us to some new foods that I'd never experienced.
Good.
And also some new places in Malaga City that I feel comfortable enough to visit myself again and even bring visitors along with me and look really cool because I know a really authentic bar to stop into in Malaga City where you're guaranteed to get a very authentic drink and piece of food. So anybody visiting, we will go into your trails a little bit more later. I would highly recommend that if you really want to experience real Spanish food and drinks, Linda's tours are absolutely worth it and you should book in. I experienced vermouth for the first time.
Yeah, you liked it, right?
I did. I thought it was really nice.
Yeah.
I had sherry.
You had sherry, and the first drink of the day was your sherry.
And it was gorgeous. Yeah. Lovely cold glass of sherry. I had sherry with a plate of goat, which was a complete first for me and I didn't hate it. So yeah, it was amazing. So thank you. We had a fantastic experience. So you are really an expert when it comes to wine and drinks. And, we're going to spend some time in this episode busting some myths about wine. But before we do that, let's maybe talk a little bit about the fact that when people picture Spain, they really think about sun and sangria, right? But winter here really has its own rhythm. It is cozy. We do see lovely stalls on the side of the streets where people are roasting chestnuts. That's gorgeous smell, particularly at this time of year. Longer lunches become a thing, particularly before Christmas, and people really start to, I suppose, experience the change of season. So with that, I would imagine there's some wines that pair really nicely with this time of year. So what would you say are the go-to wines in this region for this time of year?
I mean, for me personally, obviously everyone's different. For me, I then start to drink more kind of complex, heavier whites.
Okay.
Because obviously we're in the south of Spain. It's not the same as having winter in the UK, for example, where we then go to the big heavy reds. You know, we still have sunshine. You know, it's t-shirt weather today.
Yes.
So for me, I just step it up a little bit with my whites and complex, more bodied, like sometimes oak-aged whites. I like that kind of thing. I drink a lot more kind of darker sherries, so the Amontillado or Oloroso, so dark coloured dry sherries.
Yes.
And then my complex reds, but that are still fresh. So that's it's a bit of one of those things. People think that a complex red wine has to be big and heavy and heavily oaked and bold, and that's not necessarily the truth. I like things that have lots of layers, but are still light and fresh.
So for somebody watching, you know, what would that be? So if they were to take a trip into their local supermarket where the wine selection is really good, what would you tell them to start looking for? Like what brand, or not necessarily brand, but type of wine should they be looking for?
I mean, it's always hard to say a specific grape because grapes express themselves just so differently depending on where they're from. So that's really hard. But what I do want to draw people's attention to is Garnacha, because a lot of winemakers saying it's the future of Spanish wine. Garnacha grown at high altitude is really complex and really interesting, and kind of akin to like a Burgundian Pinot Noir. So like they can be light and fresh, but they're super complex. So I think Garnacha is the one to watch at the minute.
Okay.
If you want a heavy white from Spain, you do get some Chardonnays here, but Garnacha Blanca is also something that can be a bit heavier and a bit more robust.
Okay.
And then as a rule of thumb, white Rioja.
Yeah.
Although some are light and fresh, some of them are a bit bolder, a bit bigger.
Okay, interesting, very interesting. So, you know, that is, I always thought that, I always suspected it that, like, you know, seasons change, your wine tastes change. I know myself, like in summertime, I do prefer a nice chilled glass of white wine. This time of year, I want to get cozy, you know, polo necks on, nice glass of red. So I guess it is normal that we reflect that in our like dining and eating patterns too, right?
Sure.
Fantastic. Okay. Now, I really want to pick your brain on some myths.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. This is really the good stuff. Okay, so this is the stuff that you need to stay tuned until the end. You should really get your notepad out and listen to Linda's advice as she works through busting these myths. Okay, now, I need to be honest. As I was going through the prep for these myths, I took my own little quiz and I really did get quite a few of them wrong. So I was
it's normal.
I was surprised. Okay, so myth number 1. Dark rosé equals sweet or poor quality. Okay.
So I think the thing with most of these myths is we have this collective memory. As I think for me, I will speak on behalf of Brits. We have collective memory of one bad wine or one era where a certain wine was a certain way, and that's just stuck with us and we never move on from that.
Okay.
So there were some, I mean, there are some like Kamala and Blossom Hill. There are some brands that when, you know, I was 18 years old, you would see in the shops, and they were really sweet rosés, and they were basically for the youths because we were used to drinking sweet things. And so we had these dark rosés that were really sweet and really terrible quality, and so then that's stuck in our mind ever since.
Okay.
The truth is the darkness of the wine with rosé has nothing to do with the sugar or the dryness level of it.
Okay.
So there are 3 ways of making rosé. Okay. One is minimal skin contact. So basically a grape cell, so the skin is the colour. What's inside the grape is 9 times out of 10 clear. Okay. So whether it's a red grape or a white grape, doesn't matter, the inside's the same. So all the colour in grapes comes from the skin. Okay. So if you squish a grape and you start fermentation, okay, you leave the skin on there with some red skin, it's going to start to go pink.
Okay.
The longer you leave that skin, it'll go darker and darker and darker.
Okay, understood.
So first way is you take the skin out before it goes really dark red and you have pale. So that's the method of this.
And this looks really nice.
Yes, that's what most people go for, right?
And if I saw this on the shelf in my local supermarket or off license next to one of the more popular brands it looks really sugary, it looks really sweet. Whereas this, I go,
it's going to be dry.
It looks classy, it looks nice. I'm tempted to try it.
So there's that. So that's one of your main methods. And then kind of in regions like Rioja, we have a clarete method. So you put red grapes and white grapes together.
Okay.
And that's method number 2. Okay. And then method number 3 originates in California. And this originated from trying to make big, heavy reds. So they would start the process of making a big, heavy red with, let's say, Zinfandel And because they wanted to leave the skin on the juice of the grapes for a lot longer and make it really more tannic and make it really more structured, they would run off a load of juice at the start of the process,
Okay.
which would be pink, to leave less juice on those skin contact on with the skin, so that it would make it more tannic and more structured and bigger and bolder. So run off loads of juice, and that was a waste product.
Okay, amazing. So it is complex, like the creation process, if we call it that. Like there's a lot in it.
They try and make it sound more complex than it is.
Okay.
Like, you can get your head around it. It's,
Okay. Okay, I'll trust you on that.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Myth number 1, dark rosé equals sweet or poor quality. As Linda's technical expertise has explained to us there, that is absolutely only a myth. Now let's move on to myth number 2. I love this one. And I absolutely fell into the trap for this one. Sherry is just for your granny. Now, I completely related to this because when I think of sherry, or actually correct myself, when I thought of sherry before our wine trail day, I did picture my 90-year-old great-grandaunt sitting in Ireland in the corner in all her little black clothes at Christmas time with a glass of sherry. Like, the memory is really, really prominent. So I can completely relate to why people have this connection.
Yeah, and it's a weird one again that everyone that I speak to, Americans as well, not just Brits, everyone I speak to, I bust this myth a lot. But everyone I speak to has this same memory of their grandma with Harvey's Bristol cream.
Yes.
And me too, and I get it, and it lived in the cupboard, and it was covered in dust, and it came out to go in your sherry trifle, and it was warm, and it had been there for years, and I understand, I get it. However, when I got over that was when I went to the bodega that make this wine.
Okay.
So it's made by a bodega called Fundador now. My friend Hanny took me there for my birthday, which is really nice. So the first drink that they shove into your hand when you walk through the door is Harvey's Bristol cream
Right.
on ice with a slice of orange.
Now, I can see how that would work, but not with your granny's version that's been sitting in the press for 40 years.
It's not the way to treat a bottle of wine.
No. So a nice bottle that has been well treated, I can see how that would work.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, again, with that, everyone has in their mind that then that's what sherry is.
Got you.
And sherry is this massive world. It's the driest, the sweetest wines in the world, with 3 different categories of styles of sherry, and most of them are dry.
Yes.
It's such a huge world of wine, and like with any wine, never discount a whole section of wine based on one experience.
Do you know what? I think you've kind of inspired me now to get a bottle of Harvey's Bristol cream for Christmas and try it out on ice with some orange. I can see how that would work. So there you have it. Sherry is not just for your granny. And now let's move on to myth number 3. So red wine at room temperature.
It's a big one at the minute. I mean, I think red wine at room temperature was a thing that we were told when our rooms generally were colder.
Yeah, good point.
That's the first thing to say. I will also say that people always ask me about wine temperatures, and I always say, well, I'm not going to give you a specific temperature because no one's at home with a thermometer trying to measure the temperature of their wine.
Yeah.
And also, don't follow anyone else's rules. Do what you enjoy and do what's right for you. The wine world is snobby enough. Like, don't be told how to drink your wine and what you should enjoy. I'm here, I'll give you my advice on what I think, but you do you. And I think, for me, I chill all my red wines down because I live in the south of Spain.
Yes.
I won't necessarily drink all red wines straight out of the fridge at that temperature, but I will store them in a cold temperature. So you do what's right for you. But what I will say is when red wines get too warm, temperature gets too high, it becomes what you call in wine terms hot. And when a wine becomes hot, the first thing that you taste is alcohol. Then you don't get all the flavour and you don't get to enjoy the wine, because if a wine is physically too hot, you don't enjoy the wine because it tastes like alcohol.
Got it. Yeah, because you're almost boiling the wine. Like, really, it's just too hot. It's not going to work.
Don't get it, yeah.
So room temperature for your red wine. There you have it. Let's move on then to myth number 4. I was definitely guilty of this one. And it brought me on a trip back memory lane. Screw caps or box wines equals cheap.
Yeah, not the case. So screw cap is great for young, fresh wines. So any wine that's designed to be drunk young and fresh within the next year or two, most Albariños, young Sauvignons, anything that's a young, fresh style of wine, also with some reds, doesn't benefit from having a cork.
Okay.
So the cork is there in general to help the wine develop and age.
Right.
It lets a little bit of oxygen in, it helps the wine age and develop while it's in the bottle.
Okay.
So you don't need to develop a wine that's designed to be drunk in the next 2 years.
Well, that's definitely cleared that up for me, because I assumed in my non-specialist expert wine brain that, oh no, there's a prestige about it having a nice cork, you know, and I was like, no, let's not entertain these screw caps.
Yeah.
So that has absolutely cleared that up. What about box wines?
I found some really small family bodegas that are making like organic, natural wines, really high quality, and now putting wine in boxes, because the same thing, if it's designed to be drunk in that first year, it doesn't need to develop an age. So it's sealed in this bag that's not letting any air in. That's going to keep the wine as it is when it goes in there.
Okay.
So same vibe.
Amazing. Okay, this was also myth number 5, new territory for me. The ABC Club. Anything but Chardonnay or Cabernet. The ABC Club.
Oh,
What does this mean?
this is one of my bugbears, because this again comes back to someone having an experience once or twice and then deciding that all wines are the same. Chardonnay, ABC generally means anything but Chardonnay. Chardonnay is one of the most widely planted grapes in the world. It expresses itself in so many different ways, and it's one of the most versatile grapes in the world. People who love wine, work in wine, wine experts, study wine, everyone likes Chardonnay because there are so many different versions of Chardonnay.
Okay.
When I worked at a wine bar in Manchester, I remember we used to have people that would come in and say, anything but Chardonnay.
Okay.
I'll have a Chablis, which is Chardonnay.
Okay.
I'll have a Champagne, mainly Chardonnay.
Okay.
So I think it's just getting past that old memory that's in your brain of that Australian Chardonnay that had been put in sawdust.
The yellowtail label,
Yes.
that's just immediately came to, and I'm not, because it looked so yellow, so you'd go, oh no, Chardonnay, it's going to give me a hangover.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where that comes from?
I think, there's definitely, what happened, do you want to know what happened in Australia, why this happened?
No, tell me.
Okay. So
I'll have some more wine for this.
yes, settle in. So Burgundian whites, so Chardonnay that were oak Chardonnays from Burgundy in France, had a lot of prestige, were selling really expensive bottles, doing really well. And the Aussies said, well, we can grow Chardonnay here. So what they're doing, they're oaking it. And then they realised that oak wine is quite expensive to do the barrels. And so they were literally emptying bags of sawdust into the vats.
Right.
To make the wine taste like it had wood. Obviously, this was found out.
I feel horrified.
Yeah.
Just going to sit here with my safe nice glass of breakfast wine.
There's no sawdust in this wine. No sawdust was harmed in the making of this wine.
That's horrendous.
Yeah, it's really bad. So that was stopped. People who then couldn't afford to oak then were allowed to use oak staves. So putting basically big chunks of oak in the wine, but still not the same. So then we have this collective memory about those bad Chardonnays. Yeah. And I think still people will say, I don't like oak Chardonnay. And the problem with that is there are so many types of oak and times in oak, and whether it's new oak or older will change the flavour of the Chardonnay. So even that, don't discount that you don't like oak Chardonnay, because I think I could find one that you would.
Okay, there you have it. Learning loads here, Linda. We're on a roll. Myth number 6. Checking wine legs or tears shows quality.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I know, like, my dad would do it, and he would like check the legs, and I think it came from wanting to look like you knew something about wine.
So I don't understand this.
Okay.
What am I looking for when we're saying check the
So
legs?
I'm not going to actually hold it because you might spill it again. But on the table,
Okay.
do this.
So the swirling, the swooshing of the glass to
swoosh.
the likes of me.
Yeah. Now, you won't really see it as much with this because obviously it's certainly not on camera as well. But with red wines and with like sweet wines and stuff, when you stop it, you can see,
Yes.
yeah? So legs are like, tears sometimes we call them. It's like the little waterfalls that you see coming down. So people would do that and go, it's good wine because it's got really strong tears or legs.
Okay.
But actually and it's a couple of things. It will be to do with the alcohol level in the wine, the viscosity of the wine, the temperature of the wine, and so it has nothing to do with quality. Okay,
so nothing to do with checking the tears. Yeah, okay, I understand what you mean now.
Yeah.
And I often do see people doing that, especially with red wine. So it's like the longer it takes for the tear to drop, is it like it's assumed that it's a better wine?
So it's called the Marangoni effect.
Okay.
But it can be from so many different things that you would really have to be like more of a wine expert than me,
Okay.
to be able to really assess what it means.
Because there's so much variety. So
many different reasons,
What we're basically saying there is, unless you really are a wine expert, it doesn't really do anything for you to swish your glass like that.
Well, to swish your glass, that has a different, because that's to add some oxygen to help you smell it.
Okay.
To open up the aromas. So it would not to aerate the wine. You aerate the wine. So that makes sense. And looking at if you want to look at the tears, of course, but it won't tell you the quality of the wine.
Smells so
Do you
good.
like
I need
it?
to have another little sip. So myth 7, natural wines all taste like kombucha.
So, again, there are some, like all wines in the world, some are made very well and some are made very badly. There are some natural wines that, you know, even me as an absolute wine lover, I can't drink. They're so wild. However, I sell lots of natural wines and they're so beautifully crafted. Most people would never know it was natural.
Okay.
And obviously, like, why would we not want to drink a natural wine that tastes like a normal wine? Because then we're not having all the chemicals that go with normal wines.
That's it. When I think kind of natural wines, though, I think of like, you know, pieces of the wine floating in the glass, almost like a juice. Am I wrong in that?
So most natural wines are unfiltered.
Okay.
So what happens, the only reason we filter wine is because the consumer doesn't like to see bits in their wine.
Okay.
But when we filter wine, you will always remove flavour, you will always remove colour.
Okay.
And then you'll remove any bits of sediment that are left over from the process.
Okay.
The sediment will never do you any harm. And also, if you, let's say this had sediment in, and you take it out of the fridge and it's got a little punt in there, and then it will settle in the bottom. You, in theory, won't get anything of that sediment until that last little bit of wine.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Don't be scared.
I guess it depends on your personal preference, doesn't it? Like whether you're okay with that, if you don't mind that in your glass of wine.
I had one winemaker tell me you can use it for skincare.
Oh.
There you go.
Well, now I'm converted. Drinking wine and using the floaty
afterwards.
bits on my skin.
For a bit of blush.
That's hilarious. Okay. Myth 8, organic means chemical free.
Oh, this is a really tricky one because a lot of it's not regulated. So as a rule of thumb, so we talk about 3 styles. You've got organic, you've got natural, and then you've got your general wines that you'd find in your supermarket. Before we talk about biodynamic, because we'd be here all day, okay? So organic only means that within the vineyard, it's no pesticides, no fertilizers.
Okay.
Once that then gets to the winery, they can mess with it.
Got you. Makes sense.
You would like to think that most people who do organic wines mess with it as little as possible, but the legislation only refers to those 2 things in the vineyard.
Okay.
And then there's your normal wines, and normal wines have, when I say normal, like if you walk into a supermarket and you get a bottle of wine off the shelf that's mass produced, there's up to 350 chemicals in that bottle of wine.
Okay.
Which they don't tell you about, they don't have to tell you about. A third of them are known allergens, so it's a lot of reasons people have hangovers. Yeah, so there's a lot of nonsense that goes into mass-produced wine. So that's why we try and avoid it. Natural wines will both be no pesticides, no fertilizers, and also no additives or chemicals or nothing, no other nonsense added in the winery.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. But I'm actually really intrigued by the fact that in the production process, they just need to satisfy very minimal criteria to get this organic like certification. Do you know what I mean? But what happens then in the production phase, you know, as you said, it could be completely different. Yeah, so that's interesting. Myth number 9, sulfites cause hangovers.
So as far as I'm aware and I've read, there's been no proven studies that, like laboratory studies that say it's sulfites. One of the big ones that they're saying maybe it's histamines.
Okay.
So also the thing about sulfites is, so sulfites naturally occur on the grape skin. So you will always get some level of natural sulfites in wine.
Okay.
What we're talking about is when they add lots of sulfites.
Okay.
And we do that basically to prolong wine and to keep it,
to keep it longer.
As it is. But because we have these 350 plus chemicals that can go into your average bottle of wine, and a third of those are allergens, how do we know which of those are setting you off?
Good point.
And I think, honestly, a lot of it's dehydration.
Yeah, so not having enough water while you're drinking wine, and also, let's be honest, maybe the quantity that we're drinking.
Quality and water, let's say that,
Good quality wines, lots of water, keep yourself hydrated, you know, to minimalize the impact of the hangover. Yeah. And myth number 10. This was a new one for me. The punt, so the dip in the bottle. So let's visually look at this. The dip in the bottom of the bottle that Linda's kindly displaying equals quality.
No. So that little punt there is important in some things. For example, so it helps the stability of the structural integrity of the bottle. So if you're making a bottle of cava and that's got a lot of bars of pressure in there, then the punt will be deeper to help the structure of the bottle. And you'll find that as well with how thick the glass is. So if the glass will be thicker on sparkling wine because it's got a lot of pressure. Yeah. Also, obviously, again, with the sediment will fall down and fall into this area here, and then you've got that dip, okay? So you can collect sediment. Also, from a service point of view, it's how you would hold the wine. It's where the grip is, okay? But Because so many people believe that the punt is to do with quality, a lot of people do deeper punts as a marketing ploy.
Gotcha.
So they put a deep punt in because you think it means it's better.
Okay. So that, do you know what? We went through 10 myths. Do you know how many of them I got wrong?
How many?
7.
Well, there you go.
So I feel like you've cleared so much up for me today in terms of like misconceptions, snobby conceptions that I had when it came to wine. So that's been so interesting.
I think it's really normal. I think that, again, we could be here all day talking about collective ideas of things. Same with cava. Cava gets a really bad rep, but cava's made in the same way as champagne. Like, I think there are so many things that we have wedged in our brain from once upon a time that we just need to open our minds up a little bit.
It's amazing. You really are a wealth of knowledge, all things wine.
Thanks.
Something I do want to quiz you on before we kind of start wrapping up is, I know from following you on social media that you do visit and spend some time in local wineries, particularly in Ronda, and you know, they look incredible.
So good.
So for anybody that's watching that, you know, doesn't know about the Ronda wine scene, can you share a couple of pieces of wisdom on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so the first thing to say is, I guess we're going to talk about Malaga, and there are a couple of different sides to Malaga. So if you go over to SHOCKS, which is to the east of, I think it's from the Arabic word from to the east of, then we have a couple of wineries over there, and then the other side is Ronda. So if I can talk about the two parts,
let's go for it.
If you're staying or living over in the SHOCKS, you're that way out. There are a couple that I'd recommend out there. Okay. So Sayalonga, a little village in Past Velas, Malaga, that way.
Okay.
Like up in the hills, have a bodega called Bentamis.
Bentamis. Okay.
Bodegas Bentamis do the most amazing like food and wine pairing. They have a wine called David, which is a sweet Merlot, just to die for, like a dessert wine Merlot, amazing. But yeah, so they do a really beautiful experience where you can dine there and do the wine pairings in amongst the vineyards. So if you're out that way, Sayalonga, Bentamis is a great one. If you want something a little bit more rustic, in Moclinejo, Dimobe, which is a really historic Malaga bodega, also now have another side to their project, which is Viñedos Verticales.
Okay.
You can also visit them, and they have amazing wines. So that's a good one. If you're over in Ronda, there are quite a lot of bodegas, and there's a real range, is what I will say.
Okay.
And, you know, I love rustic, and I love fancy, and I love everything in between.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you about my favourite two.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Descalzos Viejos, which is in an old monastery, is just...
I saw that on your Instagram. I have that on my must-visit list.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. It's so, so cool. Owned by an Argentinian guy called Flavio, who's super, like, friendly and wants to just, like, welcome people, and just... He's a really nice guy. They have cats there, so that's a reason to go. And dogs. If you're a dog lover, there's also got dogs. So they're amazing, really cool wines. And then Cortijo Los Aguilares is the most beautiful visit. You can go and have a picnic in the vineyards under the oak trees, drink the wine. Amazing.
Fantastic. Now, tell us and people watching a little bit about your wine trails and how they can learn more.
Okay. Well, when I started the business, I started doing wine tasting, public wine tastings. I still do. We then moved on to do private tastings, which I still do. So I go to people's homes and we do private wine tastings. Then we started the wine trails. The wine trails were kind of born out of wanting to be able to offer something that was just a couple of hours for people that maybe weren't staying here very long, and introduce some Spanish wine. So we walk around Malaga, we go to 4 of my favourite places, drink 4 of my favourite wines, obviously paired with tapas. Food is just as important. And it's a little journey through Spain and through some of the different styles of wine, and they're really good fun.
Yeah, they really are. I concur with that. As somebody who has recently completed one of your tours, it was an amazing day. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Good. So how can people find you?
The Instagram, the Instas. Instagram, the website, so at Winederlust.Málaga on Instagram, and then obviously the website through there, but Instagram's probably our main thing.
Fantastic. So there you have it.
Cheers.
I hope that you have learned more about wine. Linda has certainly busted some myths for me. It's been incredible to have you, and thank you for bringing the breakfast wine.
Cheers.
If you've liked and enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe to the channel for fantastic more videos just like this one. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you.